one night, I was set on fire, burst into flames.
I got involved in alcohol and drugs because I wanted to fit in.
Where I came before, it's like nobody cared.
Why didn't they tell us that this jazz thing involved so much? I had to give up my apartment.
It was actually the winter of 1980 when State Supreme Court ordered the city of New York to shelter every man who applied for it. The city opened up the Fort Washington Armory, which was actually right across the street from the apartment where I lived. It was a sea of beds, more than 1,400 beds in the drill floor. And it was better than freezing to death, but it was also barbaric. And we started Broadway Housing Communities right then and there to create a permanent housing alternative for homeless men and women.
Broadway Housing is successful because they've really focused on providing quality programs. We're talking about housing equality, educational equality, and cultural equality. And what are the things that you have to do in order to ensure that everyone has that?
Supportive housing was very important because you need somewhere to go. When I got to the Rio, it was beautiful, it was clean. We had seminars every day. And some of the things these brothers and sisters were saying is like, wow.
I've lived here at the Dorothy Day since it opened. I'm a songwriter, musician, and an on-air personality, radio personality. And I got into some trouble with income while studying music, and I found myself homeless.
We do have a number of musicians in the building. Dee Ramey, she's a jazz drummer who plays for us at events we organize. Mr. Winter, he was one of the first tenants to move into one of the studio apartments at Dorothy Day Apartments.
I was using Penn Station for shelter in the winter, sleeping on the subways and stuff. And one night, I was set on fire. I burst into flames, you know. I guess I must have been a little snarky with the doctor that was doing the operation because he practically made sure I'd never be able to play guitar again.
Once people moved inside and had the security of a door to lock and call their own, they began to themselves take responsibility for their own housing. We set up a tenant patrol when men and women from the streets moved into the Heights building. So that building was followed by the second one, and it's called the Stella on 155th Street. And early on, we were able to show that permanent housing alternatives was dramatically more cost efficient than emergency shelters.
I went through steps to get to the Rio. It was one room, it wasn't a gigantic place, but you know, it was mine.
Dorothy Day Apartments was really to say that the concept of supportive housing can be adapted to serve families.
Let me see that bubble that's good for permanent. You cannot fall in the Hudson River. You cannot fall in the Hudson River.
Sometimes if my son come home, Mommy, we did yoga today. He will show me how they do. He will move his leg. Mommy, can you do it?
The first thing I remember of moving in Broadway Housing is when we moved everything in. My mom was so excited. We didn't have couches or tables, and the first thing she bought was flowers. She didn't know what to buy. She said, "Let me buy flowers." I'm so happy.
I think of the people that live in the building as my family because we have things to talk about school, like if she's gonna join the sports team.
We do a lot of community service in our after-school program. We go to the park and we take pictures together and we plant roses.
We definitely try to use the community as a way to learn. Say, for instance, we partnered with the Studio Museum of Harlem, and we have art making workshops. We also look at a lot of the local artists, and all of that usually culminates in an opening. We have a gallery opening where we get to showcase their work.
Oh, Valentine's sweets. Gracias. Our Valentine is a big building called the Sugar Hill Development. And so the Valentine was $75 million in government, private sector, philanthropy to create a 13-story building on 155th Street in West Harlem.
We're going to open a museum of art and storytelling. So what we want to do is really capture those stories so future generations can come to the museum and really look at what Sugar Hill was in the past, where it is in the present, and where it's going in the future.
That was their main hub because there they had their friends, they could go up to Harlem very quickly, they took the A train.
My Uncle Charlie owned the Fat Man's on Sugar Hill. It was a bar and restaurant, and he was a bassist. It catered to many of the luminaries uptown like Duke Ellington. And right there at 155th St. Nicholas is across the street from where Broadway Housing will be constructing the Sugar Hill project.
This looks nice, it's gorgeous.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
The kids did a great job, all of them.
The truth is that I could be hit by a truck and all of our buildings would continue to prosper. It's the tenants that live here who themselves thrive because they're provided with basic opportunities.
Where I used to live, it was hard for me to dream that I would actually go to college. Broadway Housing helped me get these 2 scholarships to a great school, and I really appreciate that.
Broadway Housing is very good. We can afford the rent, me and my husband. My kids are happy.
I owe Broadway Housing a debt of gratitude. I've been off the streets for 10 years, and I've come an awful long way.
When you think about the 114,000 men, women, and children that are still out there, I do believe that what we're doing at Broadway Housing Communities really could be replicated in every neighborhood.
In fact, thank you everybody, y'all deserve a kind reward. I think you better listen up for truth in all the time you can afford. I turned down a night's stay in a dislocated dive. I stayed up till break of day and watched as my dreams came alive. I slept aboard a subway train, I'm sick of all this jive. Well, thank you, lady, thank you, Lord, 'cause I'm still so glad to be alive. This here may be the last night that I spend out on the street. I don't mind the great outdoors, it's just that awfully hard concrete. Too bad I can't borrow on my sorrow till I get back on my feet. At least I still got songs to sing, can nearly strum them to the beat.